Ladies and gentlemen, the seventh thing I will do is aggressively build America's infrastructure to keep and attract business and put you to work. Folks, listen to this. Listen to this. China is investing $160 billion a year in roads, ports, bridges. $160 billion a year. India is investing 8% of their gross domestic product in building infrastructure, using steel, cement, building. Japan is investing 10% of their gross domestic product in building and infrastructure. You know what the United States is doing the last 5 years? We're investing less than 1%. Less than 1% of the GDP of the United States in infrastructure. And we wonder why we aren't selling more steel beyond the Chinese dumping, beyond the unfair trade practices. Ladies and gentlemen, in the United States of America, in a recent study, if we were merely to take care of bridges, ports, infrastructure, we should be spending over the next 5 years $1.6 trillion. Imagine what would happen if what I've been pushing for the last 8 years occurred. Just to rebuild the tunnels on the Northeast Corridor to avoid terrorist attacks against major infrastructure, particularly rail, is a $960 billion investment. Imagine how many people I put to work. Imagine how many steel workers have to come up with more steel. Imagine how many people will get paid a prevailing wage. Imagine. What are we doing? Nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, I also, and maybe most importantly, guarantee you that we will have a national health care policy that in fact takes care of every single American. Folks, the national press always asks me when I catalog what's wrong around the world, they say, why in God's name would you want to be president now? Well, folks, if you ever wanted to be president, if you ever wanted to be able to change the direction of the world and change the country, the next president of the United States is going to have a greater opportunity to do that than anyone since Franklin Roosevelt. Not figuratively, literally. The next president of the United States literally has an opportunity to change the direction of the world and to fundamentally set America on a new course. But you can't do it, as I said, until you end this war. And so, just imagine with me for a second. The cost of this war is standing in the way of us meeting a lot of the needs I just mentioned. We're spending $100+ billion a year, over $8 billion a month. Imagine if, as your president, I had that $100 billion discretionary spending, and I just took one aspect of the tax code. I just eliminated the new tax break for those in the top 1%. To be in the top 1%, you have to be making a minimum of $438,000 a year. The average income is $1,400,000. That cost $85 billion a year. Imagine if I just took away the special tax break you get for investing in the stock market and the profit you make on that, because they charge you less on the profit, tax you less on that profit than they tax your paycheck. If I just took those several things, I would have $200 billion available to me in the first year I was president that doesn't exist now. Imagine what I could do with that $200 billion. Get a little taste. For $26 billion a year, I could begin my march toward universal health care by providing health care for every single solitary child in America. I could go out provide catastrophic health insurance for more, covering the 38 million adults who go to bed every night, working a 40-hour-a-week job, the vast majority of them, some of them with 2 household incomes, who still cannot afford health care. Thank God you and I have health care. I spent 7 months in the hospital with 2 cranial aneurysms and a major pulmonary embolism. It put me in the ICU unit for a couple months. They gave me not a real good chance to live it. I had great doctors at Walter Reed Hospital. I had insurance. My bill then was under $1 million, but now, on today's prices, would be well over $1 million, I understand. Imagine had I no health insurance, no matter how well off I was. I'd lose every single thing I have. But you know what? When they're rolling me down for that operation first time around, I had the solace of knowing that if I died or lived as a vegetable, it wasn't going to matter because it mattered, obviously, but it didn't matter to my well-being and my family. They'd still be able to stay in the house. They'd still be able to keep the cars. They'd still be able to send our kids to school. But you know what? When you go to bed at night staring at the ceiling with no health insurance, you don't just know the cost of the copay. You know the cost of the whole deal. How many people are going to bed tonight, leaning over and looking at their pregnant wife, knowing if I have a premature baby, we literally lose our house. Not figuratively. We literally lose our house. We have a moral obligation. We have a moral obligation to take that pressure off those people who are busting their rear ends working every day. No, I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't say it. My mother may be listening. And tomorrow is her 90th birthday, and I better be in my good behavior. The generic point I want to make to you all is, I can guarantee, do you know anybody of your generation who thinks their grandkids are going to be able to live the middle-class existence you lived in the year 2020 and 2030 without a college education? Ladies and gentlemen, every one of them, like my dad, I'm the first in my family ever to go to college. All of you, whether you went or not, you know you want your kids to have a better shot. 400,000 kids this year qualified to go to college who couldn't go because they couldn't afford it. It's not enough for us Democrats to have a plan. We got to demonstrate to the American public we understand what it feels like, because they don't trust us. They don't trust the policy wonks. They want to know we get it. I get it like a lot of you got it. I remember going down after baseball practice to my dad where he worked, who was a salesman. I walked out in the lot to see him on a Friday afternoon, my senior year. And he looked like someone had hit him in the head with a baseball bat. I said, "What's the matter, Dad?" My word it is. He said, "I'm sorry, champ. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." I said, "What are you sorry about, Dad?" He said, "I went to the Farmers Bank today to borrow money to get you to the University of Delaware. They won't lend me the money. I don't know what I'm going to do, Joey." It's not the kids that just didn't go. It's how those parents of those 400,000 kids feel, knowing they got a bright kid who has a chance. And there's nothing they can do to help them realize that chance. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for $9 billion a year, I won't bore you with the program, the Biden Access Program. I can guarantee that every single solitary child in America in a household under $50,000 would be able to go to any state university, full tuition paid, for the rest of their lives. I'll end by saying to you a simple proposition, folks. One of the things that's going to happen with our Republican friends who realize they're out of sync, and I can hardly wait to debate Rudy Giuliani or, I can hardly wait.